Then Job answered the Lord and said, I know that you can do everything, and that no purpose of yours can be withheld from you. You ask, who is it this who hides counsel without knowledge? Therefore I have uttered what I do not understand, things too wonderful for me, which I did not know. Listen, please. Let me speak. You said, I will question you, and you shall answer me. I have heard of you by the hearing of the ear, but now my eyes see you. Therefore I abhor myself and repent in dust and ashes. Today I want to use as a subject, who are you conversing with? Who are you conversing with? In the place where I'm from, in the hood, they would say, who you conversating with? Now we know that's improper English for sure, but that's how we say it back there. But today I want to ask the question, who are you? Who are you talking to? Because what I'm learning and what I know is that the conversations that we have in our lives are very valuable to us. The conversations that we have with people, the conversations that we have with ourselves, the conversations that we have with God. All of those conversations shape the way that we think. Shapes the way we think about other people. It shapes the way we think about ourselves. It shapes the way that we even think about God. These conversations. The conversations that we have with other people generally determines if we don't even like them or not. The conversations that we have with other people determine even if we're going to even trust them or not. And we talk, but we don't talk for nothing. The conversations we have with people often determine if we're going to even be friends with them or not. And for you single folks, the conversations that you have with people determine if you're going to go out with them or not. You see, conversations are important when it comes to people, but conversations are important when you have them with yourself. I know nobody's going to say they talk to themselves, but I'll tell you, I talk to myself. I talk to myself because sometimes myself is the only one that understands me at all. So I talk to myself. And I'll be honest, let's think about it. The conversations that you have with yourself generally determines if you even love yourself at all. The conversations that you have with yourself determines what value you give yourself. And let's be honest, the conversations that you have with yourself determines what you believe that you can achieve in life, because you have to believe it first. And let's be honest, the conversations that we have with God always determines our relationship with Him. The conversations that we have with God determines what our faith in Him looks like. But then more than that, the conversations that we have with God determines our commitment to Him. Or if it's just a casual conversation with God, and then we'll have a casual commitment to God. And I'm going to be honest with you, I don't want to have no casual conversation with God because I don't want Him to have a casual conversation with me. Or if He's only casual with me, then I got some big things that I'm expecting from God. If it's just casual, we probably won't be going very far. But the conversations that you have shapes what you think, shapes literally what your life is going to be like. conversations that you have, the conversations that you have, the conversations that you have make a big difference in your world. That's why you shouldn't just talk to any old body. That's why you shouldn't just listen to any old thing. People will fill your head up with so much garbage. I'm going to be honest with you now. I'm just going to be straight up. I'm not the kind of guy that want to listen to a bunch of chatter. If you're not talking about something significant, important, I don't want to hear it. I'm not rude. But why should you listen to something that doesn't even matter? Why should you listen to something that's not going to help you or help somebody else? It's a waste of time. But as Christians, we ought not to be involved in that kind of conversation anyhow. But I was reading this book, Dr. Edward Wimley, he calls this title of the book, Claiming God and Reclaiming Dignity. It's a very interesting quote that he talked about this whole idea. It says that we ought to review the conversations that we have, because the conversations that we have shape our lives. He said we need to take a look at the conversations we have and see how those conversations impact our lives. He also said that we ought to listen to those conversations and see if those conversations is producing growth in us. In other words, he says that the only way we can change our life story, the only way we can transform the things of our lives and the stories of our lives, the things that shape in our lives, we got to make sure that we understand how the negative conversations really affects our lives. And so in other words, what he really was trying to say is that what we need to do is renew our thinking, renew our minds. Because if you're willing to listen, for lack of a better word, trash out, trash in. And so we have to learn then that we need to renew our minds. Romans 12:2 says that we should be transformed by the renewing of our mind, so that we can prove what is the good and acceptable and perfect will of God. We need to be transformed. In other words, we need to start thinking the way God would have us to think. You can't let somebody say something to you that's not going to be beneficial. You can't say something to yourself that's not going to be beneficial. And you can't have no conversation with God that's not beneficial. Listen, transform your mind. Transform your thinking. Because as you transform your mind, you transform your conversation. Listen, I'm convinced that now that the reason that most people can't get their lives together, because they're talking to the wrong folks. I know they are, because, listen, if you're trying to get your finances together, brothers and sisters, you can't be talking to a shopaholic. If you're trying to develop and have a meaningful relationship, I tell you, sisters and brothers, you can't be talking to somebody who's had 4 or 5 serious relationships and it's just August. I think y'all missed that one. All I'm trying to tell you now, if they've had that many relationships in 8 months, they don't know too much about having no serious relationship. Yeah. I know you like hanging out with your boys and hanging out with your girls and all that. But if you're in the market to have a serious relationship, you may want to cut them off. Listen. Now, I know most of y'all got perfect credit, but for the folks who are trying to get their credit together, you don't need to be talking to somebody whose credit score is the same number as their body weight. Oh, y'all will get that one in a minute. I don't think. Okay. All right. I figured you'd get it in a minute. If I knew it would soak in. I knew it would soak in shortly. For most people, that's a pretty low number. For most people, yeah, that's a real low number. And so you can't be talking to folks who can't help you. You can't talk to somebody if you're trying to get your mind together, if you're trying to get your emotions straight, and they always down, and they always depressed, and they always negative. You can't do it. How can you? You will always be depressed. Listen, what's that old saying? Misery loves company. And so if you're hanging around misery, and you're trying to get yourself together, you're trying to get your mind right, you're trying to get your spirits up, you're going to always be down there with them. And you know what? They're not going to help you out of there either. Because they want somebody to be right there having a pity party with them. All I'm really trying to say is this: we must make sure that we hook up, we link up, we have conversations with folks who are trying to at least get what we're trying to get. Because if not, somewhere in there, that's an unequally yoked situation. You yoke up with them, they going down, you're trying to go up. And all I'm trying to say, brothers and sisters, we need to monitor the people we talk to. We need to monitor the conversations we have. If we want better, we're going to have to talk to somebody who's doing better. At least. You need somebody who's going to encourage you. You need somebody who says, this is how I did it. But if you hang, look, can I be open and honest? I grew up in a neighborhood where nobody was trying to get out. And that's why I learned this stuff. Because as long as they got a crowd of people who was hanging on the block with them, they were good. And because they were happy there, they wanted you to be happy there. And every time you try to do something, I wouldn't do that. I wouldn't waste my time with that. And I learned that as you talk to people who are not trying to go where you're trying to go, you're going to be stuck there with them. That's why our ghettos are so full. Because the people who are there are telling the people who are there, this is the best place for us. Listen, brothers and sisters, if we really, really, really want to have a real relationship with God, we're going to have to link up with somebody who really want to have a real relationship with God. We can't be talking to folks about God whose Bible is as dusty as my room and can wait during the dust storm. Now, anybody who's been downrange know what happens when a dust storm happens. Dust is everywhere. So if somebody's Bible is as dusty as that, they can't be trying to have no relationship with God. Because our relationship is built in that book. And if that book is on the shelf, listen, I don't mind having a Bible that has some wear and tear on it. A few pages, a little torn here, cover a little. If I see somebody with one of those Bibles, I want to link up with them. You know, but y'all got me now, though, because most people got these Bibles on their phone, on their tablets, on their iPad, so I don't really know if you're using it or not. But in the old days, in the church, you could tell who was using the Bible because it had some wear and tear on it. So let me see. I don't see no. See, here you go. Oh, yeah. Sister Leslie has been reading that one. It got some wear and tear on it. But see, that's the determining thing, right? You want to have somebody who you know is engaged in trying to get to know God. You don't want to link up with somebody that make up excuses every time it's time to go to church, every time it's time to go to Bible study. You don't want to link up with them because you're not going to build no relationship with people who are not committed to the relationship. And let me keep moving. But all I'm trying to tell you, brothers and sisters, is that if you want really to get your life together, you got to start having conversations with people who are trying to get their life together. If you want to get your money straight, talk to folks who are trying to get their money straight, who's taking some kind of financial peace class or something. If you want to get your relationship straight, seek out people who's been real, meaningful, lifelong relationships. They know something. And it's not like what Hollywood teach. That's not real. Real life says that there's some challenges, there's some ups, there's some downs. Those people know. And if you're trying, to get your credit together, please don't hang out in the mall and believe those people know, because they don't know. They spending money. And one thing I know, that if you go there long enough, somebody's going to convince you to get some kind of credit card. Oh, well, just want to use Macy's card today? You want to sign up? You want to sign up for a TJ Maxx card today? You want to sign up for a Marshall's card today? We're going to give you 10% off. And every time you do that, you just created a debt problem. And so, I'll be honest with you, I know those people say, well, I go to the mall and I don't do no shopping. I understand that, but I promise you, if you go there long enough, you're going to buy something. Because it's tempting, right? And so, if the person you're hanging out with, their outing, what they consider as an outing is going to the mall, I promise you they're not going to be able to help you with your credit. Because eventually, theirs is going to be out of whack. And so what am I talking about? What am I talking about all this stuff for? I'm telling us that we must link up with people, have conversations with people who can help us get where we're trying to get. And as I look at the book of Job, I know we always talk about Job losing everything and he went through all of that. But the truth is, whenever you get time, I know y'all busy, but whenever you get time, just take a read of the book of Job. It's a book of conversation. That's all it was. It was a book of conversation. It started out with God and Satan having a conversation. And then Job and his friends had a conversation. And then Job and God had a conversation. And in the end, God got Job's friends straight. Those were just conversations that were happening. But the thing about those conversations, all those conversations had an impact on Job's life. What did that mean to you? All the conversations that you have an impact on your life. Now let me tell you, this is going to be a two-part sermon. I worked on it. I couldn't make it shorter. I couldn't. And so I said I'm going to do it part 1 and a part 2. I meant to announce that in the beginning, but I just wanted to get you interested in it first. And so for all of our visitors, understand that part 2 happens next week. So at least you got to come back one more time. One more time. And so let's look at this. Today, although all of those conversations took place, what we're going to do today is we're going to look at this conversation that took place between Job and 3 of his friends. And all of y'all have some friends. That's why I use them. But ultimately, though, he talked to his friends, but ultimately he talked to God. The first friend, and let me just say this up front. With friends like Job had, he really didn't need no enemies. With those kind of friends, and in fact, some of you in here got some friends that you really don't need. You go check. You check. I can't tell you who to have as your friends, but we're going to look at some of Job's friends and maybe you can see some of this in some of your friends. But the first friend here is Eliphaz. Now look what this brother says to Job. We're going to talk about 3 of his friends, and I'm going to move quickly. I'm going to make 2 points, really, once we get past the friends, and we'll be done. You know I'm always 4 points, but I got to cut this thing in half today. This brother says to Job, now look at it now. I want y'all to listen to me now. Listen to me. Look how he talked to his friend. He said, now, Job, God governs the universe. And he's supremely wise, and he's just, and he's compassionate. But here we go. He's going to jab him now. But God punishes the wicked and rewards the righteous in this life. So he told Job then that Job, let me tell you what happens to the wicked. Y'all listen to me now. He said, now, the wicked, they've been held, and God really looks at them because they're wicked and because they're defiant. God looks at their thoughts. He looks at their words. He looks at their deeds, and he punishes them. But then he says about the righteous, because he's making a comparison between the wicked and the righteous, and he's putting Job in the wicked category. Yeah, here you go. He says, now, Job, the righteous are those that fear God. They accept whatever God does. They accept whatever happens in their life. And so they're willing to do whatever God says. That's what the righteous does. And so what he's really saying is that, Job, you're not righteous. And since you're not righteous, Job, shut your mouth up and take the punishment. That's what he said, basically. I'm paraphrasing, but I'm not missing it much. What kind of friend is that? That's a conversation. And then his third friend, Bildad. Oh boy, listen what this brother says. Y'all stick with me. I know I'm moving a little slow, but just stick with me. I want us to really get this, because you got some folks talking to you like that, maybe subtly, but they talking to you like that. They may not be saying it out loud, but they may be acting like that towards you. But they're your friend. But here's another friend, Job's so-called friend. He says, now, Job, he explains to Job that he was just plain wicked. And he says to Job, Job, you deserve exactly what's happening to you. That's his friend now. But look, he didn't stop right there. He said to Job, we know Job's kids died. He said, even the death of your children was your fault. Because you're so wicked, Job. You deserved it, Job. So stop your complaining, Job. Because you're wicked, you got everything you deserve. What a friend. And then his final friend, Zophar, says to Job, he said, now, Job, look, bro. Look. He said, now, the triumph for the wicked is only just a short time. They dogging Job. He said, but the joy for hypocrites, look what he called it, Job, is only for a moment. And then he says to Job, Job, you had your head up in the cloud, so you had the big head. But now look at you, Job, you're perishing. But look here, there's something he said to him that was really hard. He says, you perish as dung. Now what is dung? If you don't know, I'm going to tell you. It's animal manure. He basically called Job animal manure. And so these brothers talking trash to Job. Like, Job, you thought you were all that. But no, Job, see, you were wicked. No, Job, you deserve exactly what you got. Have you ever had a hard time and people start asking you what you did? Have you ever been going through something and people start asking you, well, you know, what you do? What you do? And you saying, what? What I do? I'm coming to you for some support. I'm coming, this is Job. I'm coming to you for some encouragement. And you asking me, what have I done wrong? Oh, when that happens, you understand that you're in the wrong conversation. Because if they're asking you what you've done wrong and you don't even know yourself and you're wondering if you could just get a little bit of help, if you could just get a little bit of encouragement, and they're telling you it's all your fault. That's what they were doing. They said, Job, all of this stuff that happened to you is all your fault. You're not this perfect being as you're trying to act like. You know how people love to see it when a good Christian has some hard times? Because you know what they say, what they like to say is, see, I thought you were believing in God so much. I thought you were praising God so much. But look what you're going through. But see, the part they're missing is that may be what you're going through. But you linked up to the one who's going to bring you through. Yeah. See, that's the part they don't understand. Yeah, you may be going through. And you'll be already through, and they still going through. Because they're not linked up to the one who's able to bring you through. And so Job's friends dogged him out. And they just talking. You know, have you ever wondered why you even had the conversation in the first place? You know, have you ever went to somebody, you know, when you was having some situations and you went to talk to them, and when you finished talking to them, you're like, why? Why did I even ask you? I done wasted my time. I feel worse. Have you ever had that experience? Like, why did I even waste my time talking to you? Please. But Job's friends told him, listen, ultimately what they said was, Job, you got rich because you were greedy. God wasn't blessing you. You were just greedy. That's how you got so much. And now, Job, you see, we know you were wicked because you lost everything. I'm going to tell you this, brothers and sisters. You got some people on the sideline cheering your failure. You got some people saying, I know they're going to go down. They think they're doing so good. I know they're going down. They cheering your failure. And that's what they were doing to Job. You see, we always get stuck in the part where Job lost everything and Job got everything back. But after Job lost everything, his boys dogged him out. So really what happened to him was worse than what we know. Because after he lost everything, the ones that he thought he could depend on, dogged him out. But now, thank be to God that God sees all that. See them, you know the ones, your cheerleaders, who's cheering, hoping that you go down, hoping that you never get back up? God sees them too. He sees them. And that's the beauty of this story, is because after they had talked to Job so bad, treated him so bad, I mean, they talked to this brother like he was a dog. They called him manure, literally. And so here Job is, done took all this mess off of these boys. But then here comes God. Now this is where we are today. That was just background, if you will, background noise. But here comes God. And when God shows up, transformation happens. In chapter 42 through 48, God enters the scene. If you look at the book of Job, all before that, Satan and God had a little conversation. And after that, these friends were talking, and Job and all them was talking. But in chapter 42, the man shows up. The man steps in. And so Job, in our text, starts to have this conversation with God. And I want you to hear me now. If you really want transformation to happen in your life, you have to start having a conversation with the one who can transform it. Don't talk to your neighbor. They can't do it. And I'll be honest with you. You know, in my younger days, all I wanted to do was talk to my mama. But she couldn't really do it. She could just hear me, and in a way, because she was the only one that would feel sorry for me, probably feel a little sorry for me. But it was God. It's God the one that make the transformation happen. And so when you're talking to your friends, they hear you, I guess. But you have to, if you really want things to change, you have to start talking to God. Like they say in the hood, you got to start conversating with God. Here we go. 2 points. I'm done. I'm out of your way. And we're going to move out for the day. The first point, that once you start having this conversation with God, you'll come to realize who God is. It's right there in verse 2a. Job says to God, he says it right there, I know that you can do everything. There it is. He said, God, I know you can do everything. So what he was realizing about God is that God is omnipotent, that God is all-powerful. And since God is all-powerful, he can change your story. You see, the end of your story has not been written. It's still in progress. The process of your story is being written every single day. And your enemy is writing a book, but God is writing a book. And what happened here is Job realized, after he'd heard all that junk, he realized that God knew everything. And I'm going to say to you, God knows everything. There's nothing that he doesn't know about you. I know sometimes it seems like he's a long way, he don't hear you, but God knows everything. And the thing about it is, he's omnipotent. He knows it all. And he has all power. And then, as I look at this text, Job says, now, I know you have all power, but then he says, in verse 2b, he says, now, nothing can be withheld from you. What does that mean? He's saying, God, I know you know everything. I know you have all power. And I know that there's nothing can be held back from you. That means then that you're an all-knowing God. And what am I saying to you, brothers and sisters? I'm saying that God knows your story. God knows what you've been through. God knows what you're going through. God knows what he plans for you. In other words, he knows your past, he knows your present, and he knows your future. You have to come to realize that God knows everything about you. And Job, after he'd been through all of that, came to the realization, God knows. Listen, no matter how hard it gets, no matter how much people tell you you're not going to make it, remember, God knows your story. He knows your circumstances. And he knows where he's going to take you. You see, we understand at the end of the story, Job got all of his stuff back. God knew that. And see, there's some things that some of you've lost. There's some things that some of you are concerned about. But just remember, realize that God already knows. You see, the beautiful thing about God is, you have a chapter 1, and that's the beginning of the book. But the beautiful thing about God is he's already written the last chapter. And so you don't have to worry about what other people say, what other people think. Just talk to God about it.